Republicans and Democrats have promised us the world. Medicare for all, no child left behind, equity, safer streets, and police reform, an end to the housing crisis, a more peaceful world, and a sound economy. Government is the barrier to all of these things. If you're sick of the lies, fancy slogans, and broken promises, then join us in the Libertarian Party and help bring a real free market to the U.S. and help set every individual free. LP.org. That's LP.org. Hello, and welcome back to the Liberty Blues Network. I'm Sean Osborne. If you like the show and everything today, please give us a subscribe, like, listen, and leave a comment. Today on the show, we're going to be having Marty Forte from the Excellence in Education. Is it a group or what is it? We're going to be talking about homeschooling today.
Very good. Yes, my favorite subject.
Yes, as an educator, I find this fascinating. You know, I'm a big fan of John Taylor Gatto and the way he taught.
Yes.
And you know, so I'm interested in getting the word out to more people about the benefits of homeschooling.
Very good. Very good.
You know, when I talk to people about it who are not so familiar with it, one of the first things that they ask me is how do the kids get socialized if they're homeschooled? You know, a lot of people think of, you know, their elementary school or high school years and, you know, all the friends they made there. And, you know, like, for example, I'm still friends with most of the people I went to school with, you know, clear back to like first grade. So, you know, how does that work out for kids who are homeschooled?
Okay, that is the number one concern that a lot of parents have. And my answer to them off the top, a gut reaction is, why are you not concerned about the socialization influences of the state-sponsored schools? You look at indoctrinational tendencies within the educational community. You look at the social behavior. I mean, junior high, very dangerous. Alcohol, drugs starts in junior high. Then your kids, they lose their sense of independence because every social group will want to find that commonality, if you would, which means the character and the value of that group goes down to the least common denominator. It doesn't strive to improve. Whereas a homeschooled child, properly homeschooled, and I'm not talking about the small minority of homeschoolers that isolate their kids. Isolation is not the appropriate direction. I have two daughters that were phenomenally socialized, and today as adults, they are doing extremely well, and particularly one daughter in a very high, powerful position where she happens to be employed. So in my book, the socialization factor also is a sixth grade student in a public or private classroom environment has a social interaction plus or minus 6 months of their birthday. My daughters had a social interaction plus or minus a lifetime because we expose them to all kinds of people, all kinds of experiences. And therefore, I will challenge anybody to say that the properly homeschooled student is more or less socialized than their classroom counterparts.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, there's a as a teacher, I work for the city parks and rec system, and I teach music, and you know that's where I run into kids who are homeschooled because that's where they'll come to get some music lessons and stuff like that.
Right.
And they sign their kids up for other groups that are in the community, so they make plenty of friends in either a music class or a dance class or you know, they have different sports classes and things going on like football, flag football or baseball or soccer and different things like that. So there are other ways to do it. and I think they're valid ways, because all the kids that I've taught that are homeschooled are man, they're great students. They
Yes.
they understand how to learn, and that's one of the big points of education to me, is teaching somebody how to learn, not making them memorize stuff.
Well, the thing that we emphasize with excellence in education is that we want to create the love of learning. That is so critical. And then
Yeah.
we throw away age equals grade and work on a concept of mastery. You don't leave until you mastered that base level of a subject. Let's take a high schooler. He goes and takes Algebra 1. He gets a C in Algebra 1. That means he has to go into geometry or Algebra 2 with a 30% deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? No. Work on mastery. And forget about age equals grade. My daughter's one who became a pilot did not learn to read until she was 8.5. My other daughter, who's in a very powerful position with a mega church in San Diego, did not learn to read until she was 10. Now, if we had been in the normal educational mode, they would have been relegated to the dummy class, and never given the chance to properly investigate, participate in various options. And because they were not imprisoned into the time constraints, bingo, they did very well. And they continued doing very well.
Is that common, that like to take that path to learn to read a little later, like or was just that the choice that they did, or like how they were evolving?
We are participants in delayed academics, if you would. You wait till the child is ready, and then when they're ready, instead of a linear progression, it becomes exponential, and it just keeps on going up and up and up. So there's a Dr. Raymond Moore who used to work for the Federal Department of Education. He was a principal and a teacher, and he and his wife did a lot of research. And he wrote a book called Better Late Than Early. And then they wrote another book called The Successful Homeschool Handbook, which we subscribe to entirely. Mm-hmm. We've actually had social interaction with the Moores, but of course they've passed on now. But it's all such logic that you use that.
And he was from the Department of Education?
Way back in the 60s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he wrote several books and became a standard for many of us in the homeschool community. But not all. I mean, there are a lot of people that homeschool differently, but we chose that model. And we were very successful at it.
You know, one of the other questions I get from people is how do people do it? Like, say you have both both parents work, during the day. How do they some people, I guess, during the regular school year, as they work, that's kind of cool for them. They don't have to deal with as much with childcare and stuff like that. How would somebody who's like maybe a single parent or something?
Each family is different in their circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
We find that if you have two working individuals in the family, that they can have one work a day shift, one work a swing or a brave, or they can be employed by having a home office. That's very popular since the days of COVID. That made a lot of changes. And then other families decide, well, we just have to make a decision. What's more important? Our kids' future, or we can give up that trip to Hawaii. We can drive our car for 10 years and not 2 years. You can make those sacrifices. But it is also possible for the double working family. They can have a grandparent come in and help, or an aunt. So it becomes more of an extended family participation model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people who are materialistic would have trouble giving up that. But people
Yeah.
should give up things for their kids. Your kids' education is a lot more important than having a new car.
Well, it's hard, especially for the guy who works in the office, the water cooler conversation, and his coworkers are definitely enjoying trips to Hawaii. He's got that nice Corvette, but let's look at the big picture. What are their kids up to? What are they doing?
Hmm. Yeah. You had mentioned different models of homeschooling, like the model you use. I've looked, like, I know one mother that she basically kind of did it on her own years ago before it was really a little more popular. I don't think
Yeah,
there was as
yeah,
many
yeah.
resources. I've looked at, like I said, as an educator, I looked at the some of the classes on the Ron Paul curriculum. In particular, I looked at the music classes that Tom Woods did, and I wanted to see what they had going on there. And man, there it was top notch lectures on it. On music theory and music appreciation. I could say that in the studies of what I looked at, they didn't leave anything to off. It was definitely very. It was awesome. That's the best word I could say. It was awesome. So, what other kind of styles are there besides, like, say, Ron Paul, where you download classes? And I don't even know what else comes with that.
Well, you have several types of homeschooling. There's each family has to determine their own way. And now, with the popularity of homeschooling and just societal expenses, many parents will choose to go with a public school charter where they provide curriculum, they provide your academic journey for the most part, and then
Mhm.
they will pay via purchase order classes in horsemanship or taking art classes, whatever. Then you have the independent homeschooler, which has more freedom that they can participate in a wide variety of approaches. One would be the classical, of course, that is sort of each age group is one of 5 educational periods. Then you have the Dorothy Chandler, not Dorothy Chandler. I got a main fog going here, but they have like the Raymond Moore policy of delayed academics. Then you have the living books approach, where instead of reading textbooks, you read books like for history, let's say, throw away the textbook. That's just garbage. And start
Mhm.
reading historical fiction, start reading biographies, autobiographies, go to the museums and try to experience things. So you have not so much a detailed 5,000 name, states, place approach, but you also they get the feel for what's going on. And there are just a multitude of different creative ways to homeschool, which makes it very exciting. And you can gear it toward the family. In my case, I did a lot of travel for when I had a real job, not working my AIE thing. And a lot of times I just take my family with me and go, hey, I go, field trip. Where you going, Dad? Seattle for a week. Yeah, we'll go. And why not? They learn how to travel. They learn how to explore. They learn how to handle situations on their own. It made it really exciting, to say the least.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, they learned to get out into the world. I mean, I think that was one of the things John Taylor Gatto did. Is he would talk to parents about, well, your kid's not really thriving in this classroom, and he would send the kid to a museum or to a library to study something that they liked.
Oh, he went even deeper than that. I mean,
Yeah.
he kidnapped his kids and they hit the streets and
Yeah.
he got a great education.
Uh-huh.
He got Teacher of the Year award many times
Yeah.
for his success until the last time he just said, I'm done with you all.
Uh-huh.
And he just ripped the system down and
Yeah.
accepted his reward or award and then moved on.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Fascinating
love that guy.
gentleman. We had
Yeah.
the privilege of meeting with him several times
Oh, great.
and both the more professional and also on the social side. And the guy was a genius.
Yeah, he really was. I ran into a lecture series he did, and I had no idea and had never heard of him, but I was just like, oh, I love this guy. And then
Yeah.
bought his books, Weapons of Mass Instruction.
Oh,
That's
yes.
just awesome.
Yes. He's got some deep, deep study. Some of his books you cannot read. You have to study.
Yeah, yeah.
It's It gets pretty deep down,
Uh-huh.
but amazing people. And there's a lot of amazing individuals out there, but we're also seeing how the homeschool movement is changing.
Mhm. Do any of the students that work under your organization? Do they do like any of the smaller pods, like where they have a few kids get together and they work together? Or
Yeah, what we do is we have what they call a PSP in the state of California, a private satellite program.
uh
And by joining our organization, that satisfies the California compulsory attendance laws. And then some kids, they do more of a classroom oriented environment. Some kids will go to a pod. Some kids will actually go to college, which is exciting.
uh
I have several students that they get their high school diploma and their AA degree the same week.
That's cool.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had one kid, he was 17, he had his high school diploma and his bachelor's degree.
Oh man.
And he did his bachelor's degree for under $5,000.
Huh.
So that's a big head up. And then
Yeah.
he was working as an apprentice during that time period, and then he had an instant job and went on to do his graduate work.
So which college would that be? Because obviously that's not. I mean, that's different than homeschooling. So
It was done through several different colleges and CLEP exams, different things like that.
uh
But most community colleges in the state of California, they allow a thing called dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment. And if a student takes a class in college, for every semester of college work, we give them one full year of high school credit. And we pump it up to a weighted grade. And that's traditionally done throughout the state of California for homeschool, for any high school student.
Yeah, I think when people picture homeschooling, that's not what they're picturing. Is their kid actually going to a college and actually still going into a classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool.
And now with online classes, it makes it even easier.
Uh-huh. So is there like would that be like some way that they would take like music classes or language classes? Like say, you're a parent who doesn't speak Spanish. How would they teach Spanish if you wanted your kid to learn Spanish or German or anything like that? Or do you encourage them to go to other places like some of my music students come to the city for those classes?
Well, I think for one, if a student wants to learn Spanish and their parents are non-Spanish speaking, then there are a multitude of ways. You can go to a community college, you can go to just find a tutor, or you can go to a multitude of computer-centered learning processes that will help you speak, and they can listen to you and enunciate and learn any foreign language you want.
Mm-hmm. And does the Excellence in Education provide like a curriculum for those kind of things, or do you just encourage people to do that? Like I said, because like I said, I know some of them do have things like the Ron Paul classes have music. They wouldn't have like a guitar lesson, I don't think, but like more of a music history class and those kind of things.
Well, we do offer classes here at EIE, and we have in math area, we have everything from basic math to pre-calculus. In the sciences, we cover elementary science and then physical, earth, biology, physics, chemistry, and then we have history classes. These are all optional services available to all homeschoolers.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of parents don't want to teach math, for instance. And so we have the teachers here to do that. There are also now a lot of hybrid schools being formed in the state of California, in that homeschoolers, under the leadership of one or two or three people, they have what I call a drop off. The students dropped off 2 to 3 times a week into this environment where they take classes and they participate in student body events. They have their proms and all that kind of stuff. I'm not overly fond with that option because I don't think it's original homeschooling intent that's being covered. You're going to fall back, I think, a little bit on the socialization components of classroom environments and being part of a big school.
Mm-hmm.
But all these things are available to parents. There are tutors out there that can help you out. There are co-ops where, let's say, 4 or 5 moms get together and they try to meet once in a while. Then we also have a thing called park days where people can come and meet, and the parents get to meet and talk about things. The kids are having a good time, socializing, being physical. It all works out quite well. So
And
there's
what kind of park? Like a local
opportunities.
park?
Pardon me?
Like at a local park or something?
Yes. We have a park day every Thursday of every week of the year, with maybe Christmas taken off, but we're pretty strong about that.
And that's statewide, or you said you actually have clients in other states as well, right?
I do have clients in other states, but primarily the majority are here in California. And then there are several homeschool associations. I'm one of the founders of California Homeschool Network. That is a statewide organization, and our purpose is to provide opportunities for homeschoolers and follow the legislative agendas in Sacramento. So go ahead.
No, what does that mean? Follow their the stuff in Sacramento?
Well, there's always a tension between the public sector and the homeschool sector. The teacher unions did not like homeschoolers.
No.
They will definitely be injecting ideas for legislation to be passed in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. Some could be good, but most of them we try to oppose because they're putting on too many controls on the successful key to homeschooling, which is independence and not being boggled down in 6 to 8 hours of school a day. So we watch that very carefully.
You had mentioned you have teachers. Like, does that mean like the teachers go to people, or do they put classes online, or are
no,
you just
I have a facility here in the LA area that we do have 2 classrooms. We have a big bookstore as well. So we answer all of the homeschooling needs, if you would. I have the PSP for legal issues. I have the bookstore with just gobs of resources. I have 2 classrooms, and I have an administration office as well. So we're one complete thing, and we're kind of unique in the homeschool community as far as having the extent of services that we provide. And we don't require you to be part of the academy, to be part of our field trips, our park days, our lectures, seminars, whatever.
That's cool. That's good. You let more kids come in and get the experience.
Yeah. Our whole purpose is for kids to have the opportunity to explore, to feel comfortable around their fellow homeschool students. We want the parents to become friends, because a lot of new homeschool moms might think they have this huge Mount Whitney of a problem. And an experienced mom would say, "Oh, sweetie, you just do this, this, and this. Boom, it's gone." So we want the community to support each other. That's real important. That camaraderie is important.
And how often would they actually come into do, like, say, the average kid come in and do classes in there as opposed to something at home? Or how often does it take for them to, say, get proficient in something and things like that?
The classes are offered to all, and the majority of my membership do not come to my classes, which is fine because they have other resources. I've got people clip and Reading down to San Diego, several hundred miles of distance. And what we serve is the local community as far as classrooms, field trips, park days. But our umbrella function is open to the entire state.
Hmm. Where's the location here in Los Angeles?
We're in Monrovia, California.
Monrovia, all right.
Near Pasadena for those who are not in SoCal.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things I always end up going back to John Taylor Gatto. One of the things he talked about was that love of learning and going out. And I remember my mom taking me to museums and seeing, I was really into dinosaurs, as most kids are, and going out and seeing dinosaur bones and stuff like that. And she took me to concerts and stuff like that. So I went to see music, and really just inspired me to love all these things. Still to this day, I love the science that I learned at the Chicago Field Museum, and I'm a musician and all that stuff. And I really believe if they get kids to really love to learn, it's such a key that they just never stop. I always tell my students I've been playing music for 46 years, and I still learn new things all the time. I hope to be learning them until the day I die.
I mean, if you quit learning, you're going to shut down.
Yeah.
And we also want to encourage the dream. I'm a big proponent of you pay attention to your kid's dreams. Even if that kid says, Dad, I want to be a professional ball player, even though he's got a 0.005% chance of making it, you say, go for it. And you help them figure out how to achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my oldest daughter, she was 8 years old, she said, Dad, I want to be a pilot. So we said, fantastic. And we integrated aviation into everything, the art, the math, the science, everything. Then when she was 10, she wanted to be a missionary. At age 20, she's the first woman pilot to fly with the Africa Inland Missions Aviation Team in Kenya, Africa.
Hmm.
So she got her dream. Both of them.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's amazing. And what happens when you have a child with a dream, they have purpose.
Yeah.
A person with purpose has something to lose. Therefore, you tend to make better decisions. But if you steal dream from your child, then they lose the dream, they lose the purpose, therefore they have nothing to lose, then anything goes.
Yeah.
It's that simple, and it's a phenomenal model to work with. And then the child understands why they got to take that math, why they got to take the science. Very important.
Yeah, and they, even if like say like some kids like music a lot, they might not ever be great at it, but they can get a job within music. Like one of my little students, she ended up going to college for psychology or something like that. But she didn't even know. She went into her counselor, and the counselor said, like what do you want to do? And she goes, well, I love music, but I'm into psychology, and so they suggested that she goes to college for the psychology of music or something along that line.
Oh, there you go.
Where you use music as therapy. And she's like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I was like, that's
exactly.
great.
Exactly.
So she's able to, that's what she ended up doing. She goes to school, and she's going to be working in a field that she actually loves. Because there's a lot of people who go to school, and pay and get in debt and get these jobs that they end up hating.
Yeah,
they've never been experienced to it.
No, and there's no reason for that. But see, the system limits you to the dreaming. The system doesn't even have the appropriate procedures to teach you things. If you look at early math, for instance, why are they giving first graders basically algebraic notation? In our day, I got a few years on you, but we did our math problems vertically. 5 + 4 / 9. Now they go 5 plus box equals 9. What's that box? They got to figure it out. So in this case, it's 4. But the next question the box equals 7. Wait a minute. Kids under age 10 are concrete thinkers. They're not abstract. So now we're heading into a what I would consider an abusive approach to educating young kids. But if you look at Gatto and other writers, you know that the purpose of education is very simple. Cannon fodder and a compliant workforce. That's the primary purpose of education.
Uh-huh.
And they don't want thinkers. They don't want independent thinkers. And if you're fortunate to be part of the system that you want to be a doctor or something that has to be licensed, they'll let you in. But otherwise, you're just here to work 50 hours a week for 50 years or go on some battlefield in some foreign country and hopefully you survive.
Yeah, that's right. To make a well-obedient citizen.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
The homeschool community can dismiss all that. And you can find the one thing we do here, we do learning style assessments. So we get into exactly what makes that person tick, how they learn, and where they want to go. And with that knowledge, we can just have a tremendous program of success and happiness.
One of the things you just said there, one of the most important things I think is how they learn. As a music teacher, I realize not every kid learns the same, and I can't force them to understand or play music the same way as another kid.
Absolutely.
I have to improvise constantly to get kids to play. Some of them are terrible at reading. Some of them, read really well but can't find the notes on the piano. So we always have to adapt, and that's something public schools are terribly inept at.
Oh, absolutely. And then on top of that, you got to we look at talent and we look at interest. Mm-hmm. Now, talent is something that comes easy to you. Interest is something you want to spend time on.
Yeah.
I have 2 kids, 2 daughters. One daughter is off the chart musically. The talent is just way out there in the space. I mean, when she was knee-high to a grasshopper, she heard a tune, she'd go to the piano and figure it out. Her sister, her talent is zip. But she had an interest. While she was making $100 an hour playing harp, the one with all the talent said, adios, I don't care. But so you have to figure out so much within the child or the person to determine a lot of these different things and to understand the student. Like a lot of your students who are very good at being creative, being musical, they have some traits that bug the daylights out of the parent who is a check-offer,
Yeah.
And the 2 things that really irritate a check-off person is that people who have a disposition toward music and creativity, they have 2 things. They daydream and they get lost in time. Now, if you don't understand that whole relationship, when your child is late for dinner, your automatic response is anger and disgust, and you slovenly person, you can't ever be on time, blah, blah, blah. But if you understood that person, you give them a bloody timepiece, and say, okay, set it for 15 minutes before dinner time. And they're knocked out of their reality. They're on time. Everybody's happy.
Yeah. Even the way you talked about math, I didn't even realize they taught it to kids different now. Because I learned it vertically, but I was always terrible at math. Somebody that couldn't see, I couldn't really see what they were talking about on chalkboard. I was always just miserably behind. I cheated half the time to get my answers right because I struggled so much that I didn't do well in it. It wasn't until after I got out of school that one of my friends was a math teacher, and he told me more about it. And then I found books and lecture series on math, and I realized that they teach you to kind of do math, I guess, from right to left. And I found this guy that did it from left to right, and that was always kind of logical to me. And I found out that I was able to do math much quicker in my head, left to right, and learning to round up numbers and making it into smaller problems than a large problem.
Exactly. You just got to break it all down.
Yeah, and it tripped me out because I was like, because that when I started math, that seemed, as a little kid, I remember thinking it seems like it'd make more sense to do it this way, and they forced the other way down my throat, and I wasn't good at it. I was terrible at it.
Well,
thoroughly terrible.
Look at what you're doing now.
Yeah,
you found your passion. You're following it. What else could you ask for?
Yeah, what's funny? I bring it up on my podcast quite a bit. But when I was in high school, the two classes they kicked me out of music class because I wouldn't cut my hair, and they kicked me out of the radio and they kicked me out of the radio and TV class because I couldn't read the playlist. So those are still the two things that I do. I'm a musician. I got a podcast. And they threw me out of the classes of what I actually ended up working in.
And that's the power of the dream. That's because you wanted it so bad. You made the appropriate sacrifices. You investigated the best way you can go about doing it. And you just flat out did it.
Yep.
What else? That's education in a handful.
Yeah.
Create the job, create the dream, work it out, accomplish dream. And then you'd have a happy society.
Yeah, I think so. People wouldn't hate their jobs, that's for sure. You wouldn't have as many people. I guess we used to call it going postal, but but now they go postal every place. It's no longer just a post office.
Well, it's primarily because most people have to work a job that mom and dad said you'd be good working for GE or Pepsi or wherever, and they don't want to be there. So what you have done is you went to, I want this job, but have to have this job. That's why I give up the corporate world. I said, I don't like this. And my wife was not a corporate wife. And we do what we do because we love what we do. And we make the proper sacrifices to do what we do. And we know that we have much more influence on people's lives that may be long-term influences than working as some position of management for a big corporate company. Yeah. So
there's just really something about helping shape the lives of the future.
Oh, you bet.
One of my students he got to a point where I'm a guitarist, but I teach piano. So I have a certain level that I'll teach him at. But, this kid liked to compose and stuff. So I taught him a little bit on theory and how to compose. But I told his dad, I was like, you got to put him in with a higher level teacher and stuff. And, they always keep me in mind, invite me to the shows where he plays at. And, with the last show he played at, they were talking about hopefully seeing him in the future at the Hollywood Bowl. I was thoroughly pleased.
Definitely.
So just the idea that came from a kid whose parents just brought him to a park and, got lessons. And, the parks here in Los Angeles give out really cheap classes for kids. It's really nice. And, it's a good way for me to help out the kids, and it's a fun job for me. You can't beat it with a stick.
Well, that's part of the success formula. You got to have the people who want to receive that great information, but you got to have people who have the heart to give that information without looking at just the paycheck as the primary reason.
Yeah. So something else I was thinking of, obviously me as a blind person, when I went to school, they didn't have very many resources for blind people in particular. A lot of times they would just send me to the library and have the librarian read me something if I needed it read. Are there any resources for people, say, who have, an autistic child or kid, deaf, stuff like that?
Both my wife and I have training in working with the special needs community. We have a fairly decent number of, decent a word, but we have a large number of people who are special needs, with autism being the primary. And we know how to work with these people. We know what kind of resources. For instance, with autistic kids, equine therapy is phenomenal.
Really?
Oh, awesome. Because that horse has a way to connect with these autistic kids. It's miracles that happen. And other handicaps as well can do quite well with equine therapy. We know how to work with regional center. We know how to work with providing them opportunities, but we also bring to them understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And unless the child is nonverbal or with very little body control, they're hard to work with no matter who working with them. But what we want to avoid is with most autistic kids who are able to speak, think, do schoolwork, they can do whatever they want. We don't want to pigeonhole them. And so we encourage them to participate. And because most kids who are mildly autistic, they can become doctors and lawyers and whatever.
Yeah.
They'll just be quirky. That's all. And if you're just quirky, that's not a bad place to be.
No.
Instead of being slotted into some
box
right in the basement.
Yeah.
But yeah, we work quite well with the special needs, probably better than most PSPs, if not all PSPs in the state of California.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because, like I said, as a blind person, I knew there wasn't much resource. I know they do, public schools do better about it now than they used to, but it's still pretty rough,
It is. We don't have much experience with blind. We may have had one or two legally blind people, but we do have things like ASL classes for those who can visually see the language if they can't speak it or hear it. And then, but we also want to work with our special needs community and see if we can help them create that dream and that purpose. Now,
that's great.
Yeah, because if they're far enough down, then I always have that discussion with the parents. I want to know, would this child be dependent on someone else to survive? And if so, the parent's expiration date, as I call it, precedes that child's expiration date. So you got to plan for the future.
Yeah.
Have the right insurance, have the right resources available. It might be a sibling, it might be an aunt or uncle, but we try to encompass all aspects of everyone's life in our counseling.
Yeah, that's really great. So I guess some people would be wondering what the cost of homeschooling is compared to, public schooling or even private schooling and things like that. How does that work?
I'm going to talk about it from a private homeschool perspective, the PSP route. My administration fee is under $500 a year per family. So I'm not charging $5,000, $10,000. And then if the expensive part is the curriculum, and if you avoid falling into the trap of schooling at home and buying all this expensive curriculum, you can do it for quite a few dollars less. You can go to the library for things, you can buy used, you can create specific forms of instruction that accompany your learning styles, for instance. For instance, a kid who is going to give a report on a historical event don't necessarily need to have them write it all down. They can act it out or give me a photo collage. Tap into their needs, their talents. Where things get more expensive is if you join some of these hybrid schools, they can charge quite a few dollars for that privilege of having that child come in, but have more of what I call boxed in curriculum. And once you're boxed into a curriculum, I think the costs go up. Then if you utilize, for the high schoolers, concurrent enrollment with community colleges, that's a free education. All you pay for is the books. You're not paying any tuition. Then there are the co-ops of, let's say, 4 or 5 parents getting together to teach. So there are a lot of ways you can homeschool for very, very little, relative to paying $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 for a private elementary school.
Like, say when they come to, because you said that of schooling at home. I don't know if I understood that exactly. Like you said, the first thing, like the trap of schooling at home, as opposed to going to the libraries and things like that.
Yeah, you want to homeschool. If you school at home, that means you're bringing all the protocols of state-sponsored education. You got take these classes, this in this sequence, and here's some of the books you should be using. That gets expensive, and it even violates why you're homeschooling. Because one of the reasons why you want to homeschool is independence and to create a educational pathway that satisfies that child as best we can. Their dreams, their ambitions, their learning styles, their interests, their talents, all that comes in. So you can spend a gob of money. You go to a homeschool convention and you have publishers there, and they want $1,000 per kid per grade. You know, you don't need that. You really don't. But a lot of people, because they're insecure, they do that way.
How do you get the math curriculum if they don't have something like that? If you don't use that, where do you get the curriculum? Is that something you provide?
I have a bookstore here. It's quite extensive, and we sell a lot of games and we sell a lot of books, and we can help create. We have a wide selection of publishers in math to follow the example, that we can find the proper one that meets the needs of the family and the child. And then we have tutors. Our tutors rate on average $50 an hour, which is not exorbitant compared to putting your kids into a private school.
Right.
And then we have classes here for those subjects you don't want to. You know, if you're a mom of a high school student taking biology, we slice and dice the cat in our classroom. They don't have to do it on their kitchen table.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but we can be very adaptable. Our hope is that the families become adaptable as well. You got to look at the life change that you'll go through.
And I noticed you said $500 per family. So, like, if somebody had a couple of kids, that covers both kids, even then. Correct?
Right. I have families with 8 kids. I have families with 1 kid.
Oh man,
administrative fee.
Oh, that's cool.
And then they buy their own curriculum. But we can help them minimize the cost.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. I guess the other question I had is, what about teachers that would like to get involved instead of being part of the the system? How would teachers become tutors, or how would they get involved? Or
they can connect with homeschool associations or businesses in their area. Like a teacher in San Jose won't benefit me because they're too far if you want to have in person. But we have well-qualified teachers that teach here. And then there are online classes that you can tap into. There are those co-ops you can tap into. And for a teacher, they can come in as a tutor if they like, or they can come in and say, hey, I got this great class I want to teach. And we talk about it to see if I have a room for them, and then how much do they want to charge, because I don't pay the teachers. The families pay the teacher. And then so they negotiate and do all that on their own, even though there's some basic flat rates that do occur. But yeah, if the teacher wants, but the best way to do it for a teacher is either teach a class or go the tutoring route.
That's cool. And when you mean teach a class, would that be like where a teacher goes to, like, say, like you said, like a co-op of parents who have their kids and they want to learn math, so they might bring them over to use the books that they get from you or something along that line? Or
well, the teachers will come here to my resource center.
Oh, okay.
Because I have 2 classrooms.
Okay.
And we have classes Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 9 to 6. And if you can, want to pay the price to that teacher, that's fine. Otherwise, we can help you do it more independently.
Uh,
We did our girls through us teaching them pretty much everything. They went to a couple of co-op things here and there, but for the most part, it's what we taught them. And for our kids, it worked out great. They're doing extremely well as 45, 48-year-old people now.
mhm. One of the things I noticed is that, I got some college, but I just never really finished my general ed. I went to school to learn music, and I just went and learned everything that I could.
Right.
When I went to community college. LACC has an awesome music department. So I went over there, and then I studied privately with one of the instructors after I left the school. And but I don't have a degree. But so I see a lot of places, like within the school system that I technically couldn't teach because I didn't get, in my opinion, a participation trophy from.
I love you. Yes, you're so right. And I don't look at so much credentialing. I look at experience. I look at what can they really provide my students as far as the teachers that I bring in. I've got one teacher who's phenomenal in teaching history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's awesome, but she's got her PhD in the sciences, And then I have people of talent, particularly we used to have acting classes here, and the particular teacher was well connected as a producer, director, an agent within the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So we pick in the talent, and if that talent can teach and relate to other people, good deal.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. It's more about merit than these participation trophies. It just drives me nuts.
Oh yeah. I mean, that guy who's been welding for 35 years can teach a welding class far better than some dude who has a master's degree in something who happens to do welding on the side.
Yeah. When I teach piano, I like to teach them, like if we're learning a Bach piece, I'll tell them a little bit about Bach's life, and I'll tell them about what was going on in history at the time and how it experienced it. I love to tell the kids, I said, they'll be, like I said, maybe your mom wants you to be here. You don't want to be a piano player. But I go, look, if you learn how to play all the songs in this one little book, you never have to work for minimum wage. You can always tutor somebody who's a beginning piano student or something like that. I said, when I was a kid, the minimum wage was $2 or $3 an hour. I made $7 an hour because I could play guitar, and I would teach kids my age how to play guitar. And I tell them I've never worked for minimum wage in my life. If you just have a little bit of knowledge, and I said that leaves you time if you want to be a doctor. You can go study on being a doctor. You don't have to have a job at a fast food restaurant or something like that.
Right, definitely. Or just take your talent all the way. I mean, in music, I mean, my daughter, she works for a big church down in San Diego, and they're looking for a praise worship leader.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are six figures.
Oh, man.
I mean, that doesn't work that way for a small congregation of 300 people, but when you have 4,000 or 5,000, it works. And I know other leaders in the Christian community that, for a worship leader, it's six figures.
Man.
And you can't complain if that's your passion.
Yeah. Yeah, so, man, that'd be sweet.
And then I look at, when I counsel the high schoolers, I go, hey, why spend $300,000 to $400,000 now for a college degree when you can get 4 or 5 certs in welding? You're going to make more money than the dang doctor will.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a client up in North San Diego County. He's got like 5 acres of land. He's got a house, and about a 5-minute walk is his shop. And 5 minutes from the shop are the horse corrals. And he's living the life. And he's a welder.
Mm-hmm. And
So
that's cool.
the trades is I like pushing the trades. So I
Uh-huh.
think that's where the security is.
Yeah.
I believe AI will knock out a lot of high tech degrees before they take up the guy who unplugs the toilet.
Right.
AI can never do that.
Yeah.
So, but you got to find out what that kid wants.
Hmm. You know, to circle back to one of the very first things you said about the public school system is the indoctrination. And
Yes,
that's one thing I really love about homeschooling, because it's not it shouldn't be political, because if you want to live your life as a liberal or a conservative or someplace in between, that you can do that. You can teach your kid exactly what you want and not have somebody else
exactly.
influencing how your child grows up. And I think that's probably that's the most liberating thing I've ever heard of. You know,
And that's how we practice it. Now, built into the homeschool community will be organizations that are very, this is the way you got to be, either on the Christian side or the secular side.
yeah,
And uh, we run EIE, and I co-founded CHN, California Homeschool Network, to be strictly homeschool oriented. We really don't care what your politics are. We really don't care what your religion is.
right.
And just let's get the kids out there getting a good education.
Mm-hmm.
And then you should have the liberty to reasonably act in any which way you want. I run a rather libertarian attitude in my own life,
Yeah.
Conservative, leaning, libertarian. I'm an original intent constitutionalist at heart, and that's
Yeah.
how I run my organization. I want to bring in the masses. I want that interaction of ideas, and I want to tap into the inside of the person, not the brainy part where you get caught up on all the traps of over politicization and whatnot. So,
Yeah, that group think that everything that the school system teaches us. I like that individuality. You know, I've taught little kids who are Jewish, Muslim, Christians, atheists, everything in between. Liberals and conservatives, and they're just children. I'm just there to teach them about music.
exactly.
And just let them experience it in their own way. And to me, that's the most, that's the most beautiful thing about that. A lot of people talk about inclusion. That's inclusion, when you can accept somebody
Yes.
for who they are and not feel as though you need to control them through schools or government and all these other,
right.
That'll lead to a peaceful world, not forcing your opinion down somebody's throat.
And our people, we have different political orientations and religious orientations, and we do very well with them. Now, if you come walking into my resource center dressed in black with a dead cat on your shoulder, you're going to watch out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's some limitations.
Yeah, I hear you there.
But most of our clientele for EIE is very accepting of almost anybody. And what I'm really proud of, they're accepting of our special needs community.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the heart meets the road. And you got to have some ownership there to be actively including our special needs. And I don't worry about if you're a little bit left, a little bit right, just so you can be nice to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the same time, I have very strong political convictions.
Right.
Don't mistake that to mean I'm fuzzy. No. I'm very strict at it, but I'm not going to impose that on my clientele.
Yeah. I love that whole idea of just being able to just be yourself and living in peace.
Yeah. But you got to be careful you don't become so kumbaya that you let powerful forces overtake you too.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's a place.
That's where the good critical thinking comes in.
Bingo. Exactly right. The ghettoisms coming in.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what he wanted
yeah.
was experience, exposure, then you make up your own decision.
Mhm. It's funny because that's one of the things people who would criticize homeschooling or just say libertarians in general is that like, oh, we're going to leave the autistic out or the disabled, and somehow they're going to be floundering in under this corporate society that libertarians are all about. They don't realize that the heart of libertarianism is volunteerism.
Yeah.
When the lockdowns and stuff happened, I didn't get to work for the city for a year and a half, but I taught kids privately, and some kids obviously their parents weren't working, they couldn't
Yeah.
afford it. I taught them for free, because I wanted these kids to still be able to play. I
See,
wanted them to have that.
that's the giver's heart that you
Yeah,
got to do, and
and
the
that
conviction.
yeah, the volunteer society is the only free society in my opinion. And
I would agree with that.
yeah. So, can you think of anything that I failed to mention or bring up that you'd like to let people know about homeschooling or about your organization and things?
Well, one, homeschooling, I believe, is what's going to save this country. Pure and simple. Um, if you do it right, and that's in parentheses, do it right, you don't fall victim to organized commercialism that can mess you up. But
Mm-hmm.
if you can teach your children to be independent thinkers, to love learning as a lifetime goal, and to look at the different ways how you can learn, because we're all different, you can have a great life for your family, and your kids will do fantastic. It really will. As far as EIE is concerned, excellence in education, we're a full package. Boom. We address all issues. We're not just here in this little corner and some other person's over here. We try to bring it all into one home location. And we work with the special needs. We work with the kids who are going to go in the trades. We work with those who want to be doctors, lawyers, and such. And the freedom that we can provide you and the knowledge that releases you from bondage of artificially set educational standards, that's the state in this case. You can have a great life. I mean, my girls, oh my goodness, they have great lives. They're established. They have good marriages. They have great teenagers and young adults as kids now. And I attribute a lot of that to their homeschool experience.
Yeah.
If you're ever interested, if you're in the LA area, check out Excellence in Education. We're in Monrovia. You can go to my website, Excellence in Education Homeschooling. .com or just excellenceineducation.com. I have two different websites there. If you want your own individualism, if you want to feel like you've really had a good influence on your children, not combating the influence of outside influencers, if you would, you give homeschooling a try. Come and talk to us, and we'll set you free, so to speak.
Yeah, like I said, as an educator, I see the kids who are homeschooled, and by and large, they are quick learners. They've obviously understood how to learn. They've all done good. I mean, I don't have a bad story to tell about it. Not in the slightest bit. Oh, I did think of one other question.
Yeah.
One of the things John Taylor Gatto talked about was like say that before the kindergarten system was imposed, and you had the one-room schoolhouse kind of thing where the older kids would help tutor the younger kids.
Yeah.
And stuff. Do you guys have anything like that going on in the classrooms, like where you have different levels of kids who work?
Oh, absolutely. We throw away age equals grade.
Oh, okay, good.
I mean, yeah, it's nice if the child can read when they're taking a math class, But I teach a science class, and I got age group that's plus or minus 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Kids that are 10, 11, and 5, and they all get along good and they all love to be together. And so we all learn together.
That's sweet.
Same with our high school level classes. Homeschooling is a family event. It's a family lifestyle. So that definitely encourages multi-age interaction. And this is where homeschoolers really can benefit, because the school interactions plus or minus 6 months of your birthday.
Mm.
The fourth graders hang with fourth graders. The sixth with sixth graders. It spreads out a little bit in high school because those freshman boys are looking at a new crop of freshman girls. But life as an adult is plus or minus a lifetime.
Right.
When my daughter, who's the pilot, when she was 12 years old, she met a friend of my parents who was involved in politics. He was an older gentleman, about 65 at the time, and he was a negotiator for the U.S. with Russia. And she spent an hour with him. And he came up to me and said, "Marty, I can't believe it. I just spent an hour with a 12-year-old talking intelligently about many subjects." And so that's the gift we give,
Yeah.
And this age equals grade stuff, it just doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't allow for mastery.
It's that can't say the word, infantilizing the kids, keeping them young, as opposed to helping them grow into, good adults. I try to even teach them like that. You're just a little adult that hadn't learned this yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah, but I say, if you haven't tried homeschooling, at least investigate. Give us a call. Check out our websites, and we'll spend time with you. No problem. But I do believe that homeschooling is one of the best and most successful utilization of resources that you can do.
Yep. Like I said, I see the results of it, and I liked everything I've seen. So, well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Hey, my pleasure.
Yeah, we want to get this word back out. Maybe we'll get you back on and talk about some more things as education evolves and stuff.
You got it. It'd be my pleasure.
Yeah,
to meet with you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and thanks to everybody for listening to the Liberty Blues. You can follow me at Mad Sean Osborne. You can listen to my latest album, Free People, wherever you stream music. Like I said at the beginning, please subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends, leave a comment and a rating. All that good stuff helps out. And there's a playlist on Spotify called Indie-tarian. If you could check that out and give it a play, help out some libertarian musicians, get some help with the algorithms, because those algorithms don't particularly like us. So, give it give it a couple of listens. And if you like anything on the list, put it on your regular playlist and help out spread the message of liberty with some music. And we'll see you on the next episode.